When you look at the world around you, what do you see? When you look at the world around you, whether we're talking inside of the church or outside of the church, whether we're talking in your neighborhood or on the news, when you look at the world around you, what do you see? How does it affect you? Does it infuriate you with the way that people are treating each other? Does it confuse you with the way that people are acting? Does it anger you? Because your way doesn't seem to be the way that the world is going. When you look at the world around you, what do you see? And how does it affect you? I think that's an important question for us to reflect on. Because as Christians, we are not of this world, but we are in this world. And in this world, it is easy to become disillusioned. It's easy to become, to be overwhelmed with a sense of hopelessness. It's easy just to become downright annoyed, frustrated, and angry. When we look at all the problems, when we look at all the division, when we look at all of the quarrels and the quibbles, both in the church and out of the church, it's easy to become jaded. It's easy to become angry. It's easy to even simply become numb. When you look at the world around you, what do you see? And how does it affect you? Because what I see is that most Christians simply are angry. The way that they talk, especially on political issues, is filled with anger. The way that they even talk to each other inside of the church is filled with anger. That there is an anger in our society right now that has grabbed a hold of us and blinded us, not just with rage, but with resignation. We've become numb. And we don't want to just save the world around us. We want to conquer the world around us. When you look at the world around you, what do you see? And how does it affect you? I'm reflecting today on Matthew chapter 9. Matthew chapter 9, verses 35 through 38. At this point, Jesus' ministry has been going for about 5 chapters now. It launches in Matthew chapter 4, verse 17. This is after you have John the Baptist goes to prison, which is after Jesus is tempted in the wilderness, which is after, at the end of Matthew chapter 3, Jesus is baptized. His ministry is launched. In chapters 5, 6, and 7, he has preached the Sermon on the Mount, already creating some tension. You've heard it said, but I say to you. Then in chapters 8 and 9, he is going throughout the towns and villages, preaching the good news of the kingdom. But he is healing. He is encountering many. He is encountering Roman centurions. He is encountering the broken, the diseased, the demon-possessed. He is encountering storms that are raging. He is encountering people that are paralyzed. He's encountering sinners like tax collectors. He's encountering sick women and broken parents whose children have died. He's encountering the blind and the mute in chapter 9, verses 27 through 34. He's encountering conflict. Verse 34, but the Pharisees said, it's by the prince of demons that he drives out demons. Accusations are flying. Tensions are rising. And then comes verse 35. Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness. And that inevitably created some more conflict. It's not just verse 34 where the Pharisees are lobbing, verbal bombs at Jesus, but he's preaching in their synagogues. Verse 36, when he saw the crowds, when he looked at the world around him, he was angry. No, no matter what accusations were coming, no matter how much the need seemed, no matter how much Jesus was even misinterpreted, when he looked at the crowds, he was not filled with anger. It says in verse 36, he had compassion on them. Compassion, the word in Latin that means to suffer with. He had compassion on them because they were harassed and they were helpless, like a sheep without a shepherd. When he looked at the world around him, he had compassion on them because no one was leading them besides still waters. No one was making sure that they were getting rest in green pastures. Like a sheep without a shepherd, they were being led down whatever agenda and whatever headline was on the big part of the news that day. Like a sheep without a shepherd, they were being led into places of further harassment where they seemed to be absolutely helpless, where anger was bubbling up, where they were becoming numb. When he looked at the world around them, he was not filled with anger. He was filled with compassion. From a world that seems like it has no direction. For a world that seems like it has no leader. No leader that's willing to lay down their life like a shepherd would for his sheep. No leader that would call their name in the midst of darkness and danger to bring them back to safety and security. No guide that reminds them that love is always more powerful. Love is always more effective than the anger and the numbness that is rising in us. When Jesus saw the crowds, he had compassion on them. When you look at the world around you, what do you see? And how does it affect you? Jesus saw a sheep without a shepherd, and it led him to a deep suffering with. And then he says to his disciples, verse 37, the harvest is plentiful. Look at them. They are ripe and ready to be rescued. But the workers are few. Because the workers are distracted from their goal. Taken away in their anger from their job. And simply don't see the world around them effectively. And then he says this in verse 38, ask the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into his harvest field. That's my challenge for you this week. When you look at the world, what do you see? And how does it affect you? And let me just say this. If you are more moved to anger than you are compassion, then my dear friend, change your ways so that you truly can become a harvester that sees that the fruit around us is ready to harvest. We're just waiting for the people who have been called by Christ to be the tender shepherds that suffer with, not just cause the world around them to suffer. I love you guys. Have a good week.